But friends, I am so excited to have all of you here today. Welcome to our Maximizing the Offseason talk. Chris, will you read that first Bible verse that you're gonna start us with tonight? Colossians chapter 3. This is gonna kick us off, friends.
Absolutely. All right. So Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men.
Fantastic. Whatever you do, that includes hockey. That includes off-season training. That includes our work, just whatever we're doing in terms of labor to care for our families. That includes how we treat others. Whatever you do, the way that you handle yourself in the gym, the way you handle yourself on the ice or on the field, the way that you treat your family and your parents, whatever you do everything as unto the Lord and not for men. And so one of the things that we do at Pure Encouragement, our mission of everything that we do at this ministry is to train competitors for Christ. We want to compete for him and not for ourselves. And so whatever we do, we fight to do it unto the Lord and not for men. And I really believe that when we set our eyes on him, he elevates our game. And what I mean by that is that he gets at our heart, and the Lord draws us to be more passionate, to be more committed to excellence, to be more resilient, to push through more pain to get to the places that he's calling us to go. Like the Lord draws us to be better athletes. And it doesn't guarantee us that we're going to play in the NHL, but it draws us to be the best that we can possibly be so we can take the most ground and impact the most lives for eternity. He gives us a greater purpose, and we're going to talk about that a bit tonight. And so whatever we do, we want to compete for the Lord and not for men. And then this is my verse that I want to share tonight. So that was Chris's. Here's my verse tonight. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. This is going to tie into our offseason. It says this, verse 24. It says, "Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run in such a way that you might win. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things, and they do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable one. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air. I discipline my body. I keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I should myself be disqualified." So here's the point to take. We're in a race, men. Many of you have dreams, you have visions to want to play in the NHL or to play at the next level or get more opportunity when it comes to next season. And I feel like God gives us permission to run in such a way that we might win. And so this offseason, we get to attack it. We get to attack this offseason and make this one the best one we've ever had. We're going to run in such a way that we might win. But to do that, we have to exercise self-control, and we cannot run aimlessly. We can't just go into the offseason hoping that things are going to be better, or hoping that that me just attacking the offseason, I'm going to be a better player by chance. And honestly, we have to go in with purpose. We have to go in as one that is disciplining our body, keeping it under control, and attacking something specific. Because if we do that, we can accomplish a lot. All right. And so tonight, what we're after is running in such a way that we might win, and we're after competing for the Lord and not for men. All right. And so this is what we're after. We're fighting to be competitors for Christ. And men, I want to encourage you, this could be the best offseason you've ever had. Whether you're a pro athlete and have been doing this for the last 10, 15 years, whether you're in college and you're on the cusp of stepping into a new season or going back for your senior year, or maybe you're a youth just dreaming about what's next with juniors or with just making a team next year or this summer. I encourage you, we can attack this summer, this offseason, and make a huge impact, okay? So as we dive in, I'm going to kind of keep mine a little bit short, but let me bring you up to speed. Here's what we're after, okay? When we are training and we are fighting to attack the offseason, there are some very, very important things that we want to drive home, okay? And so in your workbook, as you guys can see, I'm going to pull it up here. As you guys can see, this maximizing your off-season training. So you all should have this in front of you, okay? I just want to encourage you to grab it if you don't, but here you go. So this maximizing your off-season training, the first thing we come to is vision, okay? Vision. Now, vision is massively important. And the problem for many is that many people, they don't know what they're fighting for. They don't know where they're headed. They don't know what they're going for. Or if they do, it's a vague statement that they've never really taken time to think through. And so I want to share a quick story with you. And then from that, I want you to try to understand what we're saying when it comes to vision. All right. And so imagine that Lincoln and I, we're going to go on a trip. All right. And I go to Lincoln and I'm like, hey, man, let's hit the road and let's go on a trip. Okay. Lincoln's like, yes, absolutely. I'm in 100%. Would love to go. And so I pick Lincoln up and we're driving. We're going to start heading out to the West Coast and we're just cruising. And as we're driving about 6 hours into the trip, Lincoln's going to look to me. He's going to be like, Steph, where are we going? And I'm going to look back at Lincoln and I'm going to say, hey man, we're just going on a trip. Let's go on a trip. And he's in that moment, what's going to happen to Lincoln's anxiety? Some of you have heard me share this analogy before. So what happens? Is the anxiety going up or is the anxiety going down? Lincoln, what do you think?
It's going up.
It's going up. You have no idea where you're going. Okay. You have no idea if we've brought enough food. You have no idea if we have enough, gas in the engine, if we got enough oil, like that's okay to handle this amount of miles. You have no idea when you're coming home. You have no idea if you have enough clothes, right? You don't know where you're going. Okay, but let's say that I were to backtrack a bit and I were to go to Lincoln and I was going to say, Lincoln, let's go on a trip, man. And we're going to go to the West Coast. It's going to be awesome. You in? And Lincoln's going to be like, heck yeah, I'd love to go. He's thinking sunny San Diego. He can't wait to get down to the beaches and just sit on the ocean and just be beautiful. And so I pick Lincoln up. We start driving. Well, 6 hours into the trip, he's gonna look at me and he's going to be like, well, Steph, where are we going on the West Coast? Are we going to San Diego, where I hope we're going? Or are we headed up north to where it's really cold and rainy in Seattle? Because there's a huge difference. Where are we going? I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I really want to go to the cold and rainy spot and sit next to you this whole time to endure that, right? I don't know if I want to do it. And I look at Lincoln and I'm like, Lincoln, we're going on a trip, man. We're going to the West Coast. Your anxiety, it may drop a bit, but it's probably going up still a little bit, right? And so let's backtrack one more time. And let's say that I went to Lincoln and I said, Lincoln, okay, let's go on a trip, brother. It's going to take us 20 hours to get to the most beautiful place you've ever been. We're going to the beaches in La Jolla, just south of San Diego. It's going to be 70 and sunny. It's going to take us 20 hours to get there, and we're going to go, and we're going to have a blast. You in? And Lincoln's going to be like, heck yeah, let me clear my schedule. Let's go. He hops in the car. 6 hours into that trip, he is not going to look at me and say, Steph, where are we going? He's going to look at me, and he's going to be like, man, like my butt's killing me. How are we going to get there? How are we going to do this? And then another, 6 hours into the trip, he's like, man, I'm hungry. We've eaten through all the food we got. Like, man, how do I get there? How do I get there? And man, Steph, you're talking way too much. It's getting really tough sitting next to you. How are we going to get there? Like, this is tough. What's going to happen for Lincoln is that instead of being focused on the anxiety, not knowing where he's going, and if he has everything he needs, he's going to be utterly focused on how do I get where I'm going? How do I get where I'm going? And battling and focusing all of his energy into that enduring fight to get to La Jolla Beach, San Diego. And it's going to be worth it. And because it's worth it, he'll fight through whatever pain comes on that entire journey. He'll drive whatever distance because it's worth it. And he sees the vision. Okay, now let's tie this into us as athletes. For many of us as athletes, we have no idea where we're going. A lot of us have never thought about it. We think we want to play pro, but we haven't really searched our heart and really considered what that takes. Some of us, we don't know if we want to play in Europe or if we want to play, locally, if we just want to play hockey for fun, if we want to go to school and then start a business one day, or if we're playing hockey because, we want to make a career out of this and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it. And I know exactly where I want to go. I want to go to North Dakota and I want to share Jesus with as many people as I can. Or, I want to head directly, to the professional leagues, and I want to then go to Europe and spend the rest of my career in Austria. Some of you guys are able to be very clear, but a lot of us aren't. We have no idea where we want to go. And the more general we are, the more we become like the people that are just going to the West Coast. So the goal of this offseason is that we need to take some time mentally to clarify where we're going. And my encouragement to you is to use this manual. We're not going to take a ton of time tonight to do this, but I want you to use this manual, okay, when you get some time after tonight's call. And I want you to really dig in and answer this question right here. Where are you going? What are you fighting for? Okay? We need to clarify this. And here's some questions down here that are going to help you clarify it. Okay? Has God called you to do anything? All right, you're going to be able to answer that. I'd like to encourage you to take some time. What breaks your heart and keeps you up at night? All right, this is getting to the heart level. Like, do you get fired up at the thought of impacting someone's life for Christ somewhere? Do you get fired up about playing in the NHL for a specific team, and that team, it just draws you, and for some reason you feel you can want to be there? Or maybe for you it's college. For me, for most of my life, especially when I was a young guy, I wanted to play at the Division I level. Specifically, I wanted to play in Michigan, for Michigan State or for Michigan. It was one of the things that really drew me. And I wasn't so much focused on pro hockey as much as I was on playing college hockey. And so that drove me for years of my life. And that was the vision that I had. And then when I became a pro athlete, my vision became, for me, just as a follower of Christ, I would take knees at center ice after games. And my vision went from college now into the pro level. My dream was to take a knee at center ice after an NHL game. It was what drove me. It's what drove me to stay after practice and skate relentlessly, just laps when other guys were getting off the ice. It's what drove me to get on early and shoot pucks like crazy when I just didn't want to do it again. It's what drove me to do squats after squats after squats when I was sore. It would drive me to get on the bike and go another minute, another sprint, another lap around the track. It drove me because I wanted to take a knee at center ice after an NHL game and just say thank you to the Lord for the blessing to climb the mountain. That's what drove me. All right, and so some of these questions will hopefully get at your heart, but I cannot stress enough, men, if you want to be ready to rock this offseason, to make this the best offseason yet, you need to become laser focused on what you're after. Laser focused. All right, and here's what I mean by that. All right, if you take a bunch of light, okay, and you put it into a flashlight, okay, that flashlight is gonna bring light into a dark room. It's gonna be beautiful. You turn that light on and boom, it takes it and it lights up a room, and there's so much blessing and opportunity that comes from that. Okay, but let's say that we took all of that light that was in a flashlight, and we brought it into one very specific point. And we brought all of that light into one specific point. And it was so focused in on one specific point. Like, let's say that it was going right there on the center. All of that light was directly aimed right at the crosshairs. When that happens, that flashlight becomes a laser. And a laser can cut steel. It's not any more light. It's just light focused in one specific place. That it's so dead set on one spot, on the crosshairs, that it has the power to cut steel. Okay? So we, this offseason, have the opportunity to take this vision, to zero in on this vision, but more so to take our goals that we're going to talk about in a second with it, and to zero it in so specifically on these crosshairs that we can attack this offseason with the power to cut steel, rather than just being a flashlight that wants to accomplish everything that there is. Okay, so my challenge is actually going to really stretch you. It sounds easy on the surface. Let's simplify and let's really get down to one specific thing. But this is going to be a really hard exercise for all of you. Whether you're 8 years old playing youth hockey, or whether you're a pro athlete attacking into your next off season. Okay, when we fight to become so laser focused, we have to let go of certain things that we know we need to get better at. Okay, so case in point, when I would go into an off season, mentally, I would reflect on the season, and maybe I'd be happy with how it went, or maybe I'd be discouraged with how it went, but whatever it was, I would probably be able to think about at least 6 or 8 things that I needed to do to be better. I needed to be faster. If I wanted to make the NHL, I knew I needed to be faster. I wanted to become stronger in my core, become more balanced. I knew my flexibility needed to get better so I could lengthen my stride. I knew that I needed to be able to shoot the puck a little bit more accurate and be better on my backhand, making passes on my backhand. I knew that I needed to become smarter when it came to just thinking hockey and becoming more offensive. And so I would go into an off season and I would think about all of these different things that I needed to do to be better. To take a knee at center ice after an NHL game, I had all of these things. And so some of you, you're heading into your off season and you got the same list going on right now. Some of you are like, man, I got to get faster. Some of you are like, man, I got to get in better shape. I just need to be able to last longer on the ice. Some of you, you need to get bigger and just be able to lift more weight and put on a little weight for your, if you're a young guy, you need to get stronger. Some of you, you feel like I gotta get more flexible and be able to just lengthen my stride, or I got to shoot pucks better and be able to hit the corners a little bit more accurately. Many of us can think through all of the different areas we need to get better. But my challenge to you, okay, and this is what I want to focus us in on next, okay, my challenge for you, as you become laser focused on your vision, where you're going, okay, we also need to become laser focused on the stepping stones to get there, on our goals, okay? And so what we're going to do is I'm going to challenge you guys to pick one goal spiritually, one goal physically, and one goal mentally. And when you pick one goal, and then you write that goal down. So stats show that for those people that write their goals down, they have a 42% increase in likelihood of attaining that goal. So we want to write these down. This is probably one of the best things you can do before you even get started training, is to sit down, to clarify your vision and to clarify your goals, become so laser focused where I'm going and my next stepping stones to get there this off season. If you write it down, you have a 42% increase in achieving that goal. Okay, and then with that, we want to consume ourselves with the process to get there. Okay, we don't want to consume ourselves with the results. We consume ourselves with the stepping stones to get there. And so you attack after this. You're focused on the process. Okay, and if that goal is specific and it's measurable, and lastly, it has a time limit. If you can apply all 5 of these things here, okay, this is going to increase the effectiveness of your off season. Okay, when we say specific and measurable, what we mean is that we are very, very detailed. Instead of saying I want to get faster, we say that we want to increase our vertical jump by 2 inches. And if I attack that and I'm focused on the process and I'm doing the necessary things to increase my vertical jump by 2 inches, I will get faster. So we want to become specific. We want to become measurable. We want to set a time limit. What's the deadline? Okay. So when I would play, examples of goals for me would be things like this. Physically, it would be things like I'm going to run sprints 4 days a week. And one day it's going to be short sprints, and the last day it's going to be hill sprints, and I'm going to attack after it like crazy. Okay. Another one was for me, I was fighting to get better at my skating, and I needed to get faster. And so what I did is I committed to doing speed skating, they're called dry skate plyometric drills. I was committed to doing those 2 to 3 days a week, and it would just be an intense dry skating summer. And I did it all summer. I worked on my flexibility and I worked on my dry skate, which was what Olympic speed skaters did. And that's how I attacked my off season. It was focused. Some summers when I wanted to gain weight, okay, my mission was that I was going to have an extra protein shake a day, and I was gonna fight to eat just a little bit more calories and make sure that I was lifting weights at least 4 days a week. I was focused. I was zeroed in as best I could, and I got better at this over time on being focused. Spiritually, man, what are some examples of goals? Examples of these can be things like, man, I really want to get rooted in my identity in Christ this summer. Some of you want to be able to I want to spend time with Jesus daily. And if I can spend time with Jesus daily, he will empower me to be the competitor that I was created to be. And so that's what I'm going to fight after. Simple, focused. I'm going to spend daily time with Jesus. For some of you, it's going to be, I'm going to learn to share the gospel this summer. That's the zero cross-haired pursuit, is that you're going after sharing the gospel. And then friends, mentally, what I mean by mentally, this can include things like leading your emotions, being smart offensively or defensively. This can be things like just your hockey sense. And I spent one summer zeroing in on how do I become more offensive as an athlete. And I would study YouTube films. I would watch all these NHL players, all their goal highlights, and I would fight to get into their heads and try to think as they thought so I could become more offensive. I didn't just watch how sweet the highlight was. I tried to get into their heads to think how they thought so I could do what they did. And I would literally have my notebook out and be taking notes, trying to figure out how they thought. And if I could replicate it, I could do it. And it honestly, for me, was one of the most effective off seasons I ever had. And I went from scoring 25 goals to 50 the next season because of time like that. So we need to become laser focused. We go after vision, we go after goals, okay? And the final thing you'll read about men is this thing we call the big why, okay? And my challenge to you is this: you need to find a motivation that is bigger than you. You have to find a bigger motivation. If it's all about you, eventually you're going to run into something and that's bigger than you, and you're going to quit. But when we fight for something bigger than ourselves, when we're driven by love and not fear, and we're driven to compete for Christ and not ourselves, and it's bigger than you. Maybe it's about saying thank you to a family member. Maybe it's about inspiring a teammate. Maybe it's about impacting the next generation, and you're going to leave a legacy to impact people's lives. You'll see on your sheet here that there's some examples of powerful big whys that I've heard some people say. But the point is this: it's where hockey becomes your tool to impact people's lives. And when you can grab onto that, you have a laser focused vision. You have laser focused, simple goals. You have one goal physically, one goal spiritually, one goal mentally. And then you have a driving force that's bigger than you. When you put that arsenal together, you are going to be an absolute machine this offseason. An absolute machine. So this is going to take work on your end. This is going to take work on your end to come up with your vision, to come up with your goal, okay, your next action step, your goal, your next action step, okay, and your big why. My encouragement is that when you finish this and you take time and you pray through this and you diligently prepare for your off season, you finish this sheet out, and then you take this and you post it right in front of you where you can see it every day. You push this thing right on your desk, right on your bed, right on your wall, right on your door, wherever you're going to see this every day. And this is what you're after. You're a laser this off season. You're not a flashlight, you're a laser. And you're going after one specific thing in each area. You have a driving force bigger than you, and you have a vision that absolutely inspires you to do whatever it takes to get to that destination. If you put that together, your off season is going to be absolutely powerful. Okay? And so let me pause here, friends, real quick. Let me pause. Do I have any questions that come up right now? Any questions in regard to this? And then I'm going to end up throwing it over to Coach Chris, and he's going to give us some thoughts on how we can attack this offseason from a physical side and any other things that he might have with that. But friends, I just want to open it up. Does anybody have a question? I'll open it up to 3 questions if anybody has any. And if not, we're going to kick it to Chris. And so please go ahead and you can unmute your mic and you can ask it, or you can put it in the chat bar. Either one works. Give me your thoughts. Any questions?
Gary, before people hop on as they're thinking of their questions here, we had a question in the chat about the verse that you spoke on. So yeah, if you just want to share that, and then I have a question for you if nobody else does.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you're talking about goals in particular, if you could kind of go back and change one of your goals, right now that you have the lens of a retired player and a coach, maybe you could give me one that you wish you focused on when you were U12, U14, when you were playing AAA, U16, 18, junior, college? Is there one particular time in life that stands out of a goal that you wish you kind of modified or changed?
Absolutely. I wish when I was young, I mean, obviously you gain a lot more knowledge as you get older, but I wish when I was young that I would have understood the opportunity, I guess, for development at a young age. So for you young guys, okay, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, right now, your brains are operating in such a way where you are creating just so many habits, and your brain is literally firing neurons left and right to try to learn new skills. And the ones that don't get learned, or the ones that don't get used, they get lost. Okay, and so if I was 12 again, I would have a stick and a golf ball in my hand all day, every day, everywhere I went. I would stick handle left and right. I'd shoot as many pucks as I could. I would do everything I could to develop the perfect hockey stride. Because in those days at 11, 12, 13, 14, okay, you are literally formulating some of the best habits you're going to have the rest of your life. So if I would have known that, Chris, at that age, I would have been so laser focused on that. I would have stick handled all the time.
Mm.
And I would have given myself permission to just have fun and be an athlete with other sports too, because athleticism makes us better hockey players. And so
Mhm.
I think having the freedom to be able to do that, which I know you and I have talked about, when you're just athletic, right, and you're able to bring just athleticism into your sport, that absolutely makes a difference. When I'm older, I would say this: when I got older, I really would have probably worked and learned on skate from a skating standpoint. That was my big thing, but identifying that and really zeroing in on that earlier would have been a
Mhm.
big thing for me. And so I guess identifying the big area that holds me back and really attacking it earlier, I think I would have done that.
Yeah.
So that's how I'd answer that. Anybody else have a question?
I had a question, Gary.
Go ahead, Billy.
So when I think about like mental goals, I think about um, you know, how not to get discouraged, I guess. Like, I want my mental goal to be, but it's not really like direct, it's not like tangible, so you can't really count it. You're in the gym, you get discouraged, or you're on the ice, you get discouraged, you're made to be discouraged for a couple of days. I guess I was just wondering if you had any advice on kind of battling through those emotions.
So discouragement is real, absolutely real.
Mm.
And if I'm honest, I would have ups and downs. I would have ups and downs when it came to battling those emotions. The end of my fourth season of pro, I was incredibly discouraged. I wanted to play in the American League and I wanted one game in the NHL, and I thought it was impossible after my fourth season. And so I go into the off season. I still wanted to play, but in my heart, I had just lost hope. I lost this. I become discouraged. I lost hope. And I'll never forget that off season, just training hard, but it just wasn't the same. And it wasn't until halfway through that off season when I went to a Christian concert, and the Lord honestly just met me. It met me in a big way, to where I felt Him speak to my soul and give me the courage to get back up and try again. And even though the window was small, I risked it. And it was from that moment on that I really took a whole new just intensity and excitement and passion, and in giving myself the courage and the faith and just the taking the risk to zero in and laser point on something, even if I failed. It takes courage, man. It takes courage to go after something that you might fail at. And so for me to be able to zero in and try that, that was a huge moment for me. But it was because of that moment that my fifth year became the year that I scored 50 goals. I led the entire ECHL in goals. I was a captain of the team. We won a championship with the Allen Americans, and I got the privilege to go back to the American League. And it was the closest I ever came to playing in the NHL. So those waves come. But if we can give ourselves the permission and have the courage to zero in, even if we're scared, and we go after something and we risk it If we take that risk, that gives us the best chance and opportunity to be able to accomplish things that we might think are impossible. So my encouragement to you, Billy, is to take the risk, to identify it, be realistic, but take the risk and think big and dream in a big God and go after it, brother. That's my encouragement to you. It's scary, but it's tough, and I've been there. All right, friends, one more question, and I will keep this ball moving. Does anybody have anything else, or are we ready to hear from Chris Kerr?
I was just going to add to that what he said. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Taylor.
Yep.
I was reading today because I was talking to my dad about it earlier because I wanted to reach out to a coach in the next level. And then he just kind of said to slow down and like God has you there for a reason and kind of just trust him. At the end of the day, I think even if being fearful going into games or if anybody has that ever, I think the big thing is like just allowing not like what you can do, it's what he can do through you. And like it gives you a whole different confidence when you're training, when you're playing, that like it's not for what you can do, because like when I'm weak, he's strong, right? So really depending in him and knowing that you're just a tool for him to use to give him glory and stuff. And I think takes a lot of the pressure off of what you need to do. So
come on. So good, dude. And your story, Taylor, is absolutely powerful this year. For those of you that don't know Taylor's story, he's a professional hockey player, and he ended up getting moved around a few different teams. And he ended up being led by the Lord to a team that he never planned on going to, that he didn't really want to go to, and that he didn't plan on going to. But because he went, and because he continued to fight and never give up and continue to push forward, he's having an incredible time. But God has ultimately opened the door for him to lead a teammate to Jesus. And so he got the privilege to make an eternal impact, even though it wasn't where he planned on going. And man, I'm proud of you. Great job, Taylor. You're an absolute warrior. And for you, the resilience is evident, and you're continuing to fight. You're not giving up on your dream, and nor should you. You keep fighting. And you're an absolute warrior. And this offseason is going to be an absolute amazing offseason for you, but you're not done yet with the season. So you keep fighting, brother, all right? So with that, Chris Kerr, I'm going to transition to you. And friends, as you're listening to Coach Chris, use those notes if you want to take some notes. This is recorded, so you'll be able to watch this again. But also, if you end up coming up with questions as he talks, or just as you think about some of the stuff that I shared, please get ready, because at the end, we will have a chance to ask questions again. Okay? And so, Chris Kerr, the floor is yours, my brother. Go ahead.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Gary. All right, we'll share the screen here. And then I'm just going to share my entire screen. And then we'll get this rolling here. Cool. All right, everyone good there? Looks
Yes,
good,
sir.
Gary?
Yep, we're good.
All right, do you see this, what I'm circling here? Hopefully not. Move that out of the way. All right, guys, so just kind of always hard to follow up on Gary here, but he was kind of covering the spiritual, mental, and I'm going to go over a bit of the physical now. So first off, a huge thank you to Gary. Gary is the man, as most of you know, and that's why you're here. Just a true warrior for the gospel and pouring everything out. So Gary, thank you for the opportunity here. And for those of you who do not know, Gary is a big part of our women's team at Liberty University. And so he is a part of the 5P. The women have won 5 national championships in a row. And for the last couple of years, Gary's been pouring in tirelessly on the spiritual and the mental side for our girls. So you're in good company if you're on a call or conversation with Gary Steffes.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, so who am I? Who's this guy? Why listen to me? Why give me any time of the day? So my name is Chris Kerr, and I am the Director of Sports Performance at Liberty University Hockey, and I have been since 2014. So within my time here at Liberty, I have coached 28 college hockey seasons in the weight room. Liberty is super unique, where we have 5 hockey programs. And for a number of years, I was in charge of all 5 of them. So 28 college hockey seasons, and that just wrapped up last Monday and last Tuesday. In that, time since 2014. I've won 6 national championships with our women's team, and they've won 5 in a row. And 18, they had to take 2020 off because of COVID. From 18 to 23, 5 in a row. So for those of you that are good at math, you're going to realize like, hey, wait, that's 22 seasons where you went championshipless. And that's very true. So of those 22 where my teams did not win a championship, if you count 2020, there's 2 right there where the men finished number 2 in the country and the women finished number 1 when the world got shut down there. 3 years, my hockey teams made it to the championship final. I actually had a men's team and a women's team lose in the finals on the same day back in 2017. So that was awesome. And other than that, it's been, on paper, potentially you could call it unsuccessful seasons. So you learn through your success, but you learn more through your mistakes. And what we're going to go over today, as far as the physical side, is just me learning from mistakes. So a little bit of my history as it relates to hockey. So when we're talking about maximizing your off-season training physically, today we're going to give you a little bit of what I do and why. So I'm going to try to cover, thoughts and ideas, whether you're on here as a U8 player or if you're here as a pro player. So I've modified, edited this a whole bunch, and I've tried to just narrow it down to some small chunks. The biggest thing will be questions at the end. So hopefully I'll rip through this, and especially for parents on here, for younger kids, or if you're a pro and you have specific questions, make sure you ask me, and I can make myself available either after the call or through contact. So when it comes to the off season, we want to focus on being healthy and pain-free. We want to build a base and a peak, and we want to prepare for the upcoming season. And then that's kind of our template of what we'll be covering. And then at the end, we'll go over some questions there. So when it comes to maximizing your off season, kind of the 3 main blocks or 3 main cycles or 3 main things I have in mind are get healthy and pain-free. That's absolutely number 1. That comes immediately. So for my Liberty teams who finished up their seasons a week ago, that's what we're in right now, getting healthy and pain-free, right? If you've been playing for a number of years, you know what I'm talking about there, right? The shoulders and knees, the hips, the mental. If you're a younger guy, you might be like, what's pain? But you'll find out one day, especially if you continue in this sport. And then we're going to build the base, build the peak. We'll kind of get into that. But the middle chunk of your off-season training, you better be building, okay? And then the final part is preparing for the upcoming season. So if we look at this graph down here, hopefully you guys can see my mouse. We have how old you are and the specificity of your training. So when you're young, let's say a U18 player, just do life, man. Play sports, go outside, get off your video games, get off your iPads or whatever, and play. And that is going to be great training for you as a hockey player. U16, you're going to need a little bit more. Still playing other sports, but don't feel like you have to go all in as if you're a college or professional hockey player. There's still some non-hockey training that you could do that's going to help you. And then I have this JCP up here, which just stands for Junior College Professional. You better be doing hockey-specific training. Everything you do, especially if you're getting paid, whether it's through scholarship, whether it's through billet housing, or whether it's through actually getting paid by a team or organization to be on it, your training all has to be geared towards it. So here's an example of that, right? Let's say on ice, between your age and your specificity of training. So on ice example, if you're a U8 kid, you don't need to learn the tactics and the systems of college hockey teams. Okay, you just need to focus on not falling when you're out there. And then when we flip it to the professional side, everything you're doing needs to be geared towards getting you better. Okay, so that's just kind of an example of your age and then the specificity of training.
And I'll add to that, Chris, because the way that the brain develops and the things that we're learning about from that end of it, like athleticism really improves hockey's ability.
Mhm.
So being athletic, being able to be agile and be able to think and be able to play, and like to be able to, you develop strength and you develop coordination, and the
Absolutely.
brain soaks all of that in rather than, missing some of the things because we zero in too quickly. So
Mhm.
there's, that's what I would say to that, just to double on what you're sharing. But well, good point. Keep going.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so, in a couple months here, I'll be having a child, and as they grow, let's just say they're exceptional at ice hockey. I'm having them play sports year round. I'm giving them breaks, and that's something we can answer later as a question, or even kind of get into it ourselves there, Gary. So, when we look at a monthly or a zoomed out 10,000-foot view of my off-season template, if we use my Liberty teams as an example, there's 21 weeks until they start up again at the end of August, beginning of September. So if we start next week until they start up again, that's 21 weeks. So weeks 1 through 3, we're really going to focus on being healthy and pain-free. All the aches and pains, the bumps and bruises that occurred during the season, I want those gone. If you have the nagging shoulder injury over these next 3 weeks, let's work on that. Okay. So that will be going to our sports med staff. That'll be not doing hockey related things that hurt it or weight room related things that hurt it. Okay. Then weeks 4 through 15, we're going to build the base and build the peak. That's where we're going to get maximally strong, fast, develop endurance. And then weeks 16 through 21, that's when we're going to prepare for the upcoming season. So to be honest with you guys, if you walked into my Liberty weight room on week 11, you would say, "Hey, is this a hockey team? Is this a football team? A basketball team? What kind of team is this?" Because I'm doing training that's so non-specific to hockey. Because I'm not trying to develop a hockey player weeks 4 through 15. I'm trying to take a human being and make them incredibly strong, incredibly fast, and able to last. Okay. So, what will a week look like? So, we're going to train 5 days a week, and we could talk about how to modify that for your time and your schedule. But you can see here how Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, those are high intensity days. So, 3 days a week out of that 5, I want to obliterate you. I want you to be working your butt off to the point where it's like, oh, you're going to step back and go, oh, that was tough. And then you're going to notice on Tuesday and Thursday, those are low intensity days where you kind of come in, you're maybe a little sore from the day before, and you walk out of that workout going, hey, I feel really good. My hips feel good. I feel like I'm breathing and moving better. And that's the goal, and that's the idea. We'll talk a little bit about what that high and low model really looks like. So then what does a day look like on a high intensity and a low intensity day? It's very, very simple. On a high intensity day, we're going to warm up. We're going to do some speed drills. Then we're going to do a circuit involving lifting some weights and running some sprints. On a low intensity day, we're going to warm up. We're going to do some speed drills. And then we're going to have kind of a higher repetition, multi-angle lunges. We'll do some conditioning through a circuit, almost kind of bodybuilding-esque. And then at the end, we'll do some shoulder health because if you play hockey, your shoulders get banged up. So what I want you guys to take notice of is how on a high intensity and a low intensity day, there's both speed drills. Hockey has changed. The systems that are being run, the rules that the referees are enforcing really caters towards the fast athlete. Okay, gone are the days of the massive Western Canadian defenseman who just lays the body and isn't very fast or a skilled skater. You have to be fast. And so in my off-season programs, every single day that we are training, there's some sort of emphasis on speed drills. Now, the speed drills on a high intensity day are going to look different than on a low intensity day, but speed is such an important quality that you can't just make it an afterthought. It has to be focused and intentional. That's why we always do it right after our warm up. Come in, warm up, you're focused, you're fresh, boom, let's hit some speed drills. So I have used this word template a lot. What is a template? A template's simple. It's just a way to organize your training. It's a plan. Okay, a template could be what you do daily, what you do weekly or monthly, as I kind of showed and explained a bit. Most hockey coaches or strength coaches follow a template, whether you kind of realize it or not. So for the parents and the coaches in the room, here's what might make sense to you. So on Monday, every Monday at practice, you're doing some sort of shooting and passing skill development. You're doing some sort of D zone breakout, and you're going to work on your special teams. And then on Wednesdays, for your skill development, you're working on your power skating, your stick handling, your ozone forecheck, and then your neutral zone regroup. Okay, so as a coach, you're going to look at that and go, oh yeah, that's right. And every Monday, it might be a different shooting drill, or the drill may progress as the year goes on. And on Wednesdays, when you're stick handling, first day, you're just trying to get the hands going. By the end of the year, the heads are up and you're going through cones, around pucks, whatever it is. And then as a strength coach, this might make sense where, okay, on Mondays, we're going to do all upper body, and on Wednesdays, we're going to do all lower body. So that's just an example of a template. It's just a way to kind of plan and organize your training. So why do I use the template that I do, where Monday, Wednesday, Friday are high intensity days, and Tuesdays and Thursdays are low intensity days? So that is known as the high-low model. It's stolen from this shirted gentleman here, looking good. And then we have his athlete, Ben Johnson. So the gentleman on the right of this picture, his name is Charlie Francis. He was a Canadian track and field coach. So for the more seasoned people on the call, you might remember Ben Johnson versus Carl Lewis in the 1988 Seoul, Korea Olympics. So Ben and Carl were 100-meter sprinters. And in order to make Ben Johnson as fast as possible, what Charlie Francis realized was 3 days a week, I'm going to have him sprint really hard. And 2 days a week, I'm just going to have him jog, right? So a max effort sprint with a kind of low jog. So what that did is it allowed him to recover before the next hard training day. So what a lot of coaches do in practices, and what a lot of coaches do in the weight room, is the high model versus the high-low. So Monday, we're going to come in, we're going to work hard. Tuesday, coming in, we're going to work hard. We're going to sweat, we're going to grind. Wednesday, we're going to work hard, but we're a little bit sore. And then on Thursday, we're going to try to work hard, but coach, we're pretty sore, we're pretty tired here. And then on Friday, let's come on, end of the week, let's grind third period. Let's coach, I'm beat up. I'm probably going to get hurt. Okay, so you can kind of see, if you just show up every day and try to just blast yourself in the weight room, it's not going to work. It might work for a week, but eventually you're going to fall apart. You're going to break down. So that's why I like the high-low model. Okay, so again, if we're training 5 days a week and we have this high-low model, on Monday, it's a high-intensity day. We're going to work on strength and power. On Tuesday, when that's a low-intensity day, we're going to do conditioning and recovery. Okay, so we're going to do light jogging on Tuesday. We're going to do bodybuilding type of circuits where it's low intensity, easy weights, higher reps, kind of gets our heart rate up, but doesn't beat us up or hurt us. We're going to do a lot more hip mobility. So that way it maximizes Wednesday. When we come in, we're going to have a great speed day on Wednesday because we're not sore, tired, or beat up. Thursday, we'll recover from Wednesday. And then Friday, we're going to come in and have a great strength and power workout because we didn't beat ourselves up. Now, let's say you can't train 5 days a week. Let's say it's only 3. What I would suggest is just look at Monday as like day 1. Tuesday is day 2. Wednesday is day 3, 4, and 5 for Thursday and Friday. And then just roll and cycle through those days. So that way you're never really missing a certain quality that you're trying to work on. So if you could only work out twice a week, maybe you do 2 high intensity days, or maybe you have 1 high intensity, 1 low intensity day. Right? And then if you have specific questions at the end, we could definitely get into that. So Gary sent me kind of some preloaded questions on, bigger, faster, stronger. So when we look at the quality we're trying to develop on the certain day, on Monday, we're going to get faster and stronger. Okay, because that's going to be a resisted sprinting or a normal sprint day where we lift weights. On Tuesday, that's going to kind of help get us bigger because we're going to do some upper body bodybuilding. We're going to work on the beach muscles a bit, circuit style. That's going to increase our heart rate. And now we're getting an aerobic conditioning or a cardio effect from just lifting weights. That's pretty sweet, right? We like that. So you could see how throughout the week, the bigger, faster, stronger is all kind of incorporated in there. And then you can note on Friday, when you have 2 days of rest, maybe we do some higher repetition squat, bench, and deadlift in order to put a little size on us. And if we did that on Monday, let's say on Monday we do a couple sets of 10 on squat, bench, and deadlift, we might still be pretty sore on Wednesday from that. But Wednesday, we're trying to get faster again. So it's hard to get fast when you're sore, when you're tired, and when you're beat up. So that's why we kind of cater things the way that we do here. All right, so off season, weeks 1 through 3, that's when we're going to focus on health and being pain-free. So the goal of the first couple of weeks in the off season is restore quality, pain-free movement. Right throughout the season, you're kind of nursing a groin injury. Whenever you kind of move this way, or you're walking upstairs and your knee hurts, we want to get rid of all that. Okay, so get out of hockey positions as well, right? Hockey rounded over, hunched up, tight hips. Let's get out of that. Let's return to being a normal human. That's the goal. How do we do that? Well, we're going to use age and strength specific isometric holds. We're going to stretch and certain exercises. So if you're a U8 player, first couple of weeks, man, go play another sport or just take a few months off. Don't play hockey. Go play soccer. Go play basketball. Go play volleyball. Go run track. Whatever it is. Go do gymnastics, dance classes. U16, hopefully you're still playing another sport, or just take a couple weeks off, and then you could be stretching 3 to 5 times a week, right? Stretching out your hips, stretching out your shoulders. For our junior college professionals, you guys are going to be a little bit more beat up. You have more practices and more games. So see your sports medicine or your athletic training staff as needed for consistent pain areas, shoulders, knees, hips, rehab necessary pain areas in those first couple weeks. And then we're going to go into an isometric and aerobic block to build back health and quality human movements. Right? And we'll have some examples of that. So picture on the far left, that's me holding a split squat. So my knee is slightly up. That's going to elongate this hip flexor muscle, stretch out my quad if I hold that for 30 seconds. Here, I'm in the bottom of a push-up. That's going to help open up my chest because I've been rounded over for so long throughout the season. Here, I'm holding a push-up. My shoulder blades are pinched back. I'm opening myself up with these exercises. I'm going to be honest, they're not super fun. They kind of hurt a little bit. And kind of just looks like weightlifting, stretching, yoga type of stuff. But if you skip this block, you're going to have continued chronic tightness, right? You're going to be nursing injuries for the entire off season. And then it's going to have a lack of positions in future weight room and strength and then sprint training exercises. So if we can't get our shoulders back in good positions, if we can't get our hips in good positions, how are we going to sprint effectively? How are we going to squat and lunge effectively? We won't be able to. So we can't skip this block. And then when I'm holding these positions, when I'm holding a split squat or holding the bottom of a push-up, that's creating localized muscular endurance or muscle conditioning. And so that's just going to add to our ability later on down the road to handle more work and have more capacity. So weeks 4 through 5, we're going to build a base and a peak. So the base is our cardio and our aerobic capacity, and the peak is our peak strength and speed. So when we look at this, right, a peak or a pyramid can only be as high as its base. So let's look at this person in the red, right? So some athlete took the summer, kind of slacked a little bit. Okay, let's call this athlete 1. So athlete 1 didn't quite put in the work, and you can see the top of that pyramid there, not very high. Okay, athlete 2 in the white here, they did tons and tons of work, and you can see how much higher that peak is. So that can be their peak strength, that can be their peak speed, which all coaches want fast, strong players. But if you don't put in this massive base of work, no good. And that's why we spend weeks 4 through 15 working on this. Again, it's not hockey specific really, but it is athlete specific training. Then we'll work on the hockey stuff a little bit later. So Weeks 4 through 15, we're going to maximize speed, strength, and aerobic capacity. So again, you could see here how if you cut your training a little bit short, look how much smaller your peak will become. So let's just pretend the top of this red peak is a 70 mile per hour shot versus a 80 mile per hour shot. Let's pretend that this is you finish in the middle of the pack in your team in sprints versus now you're top 5 on your team in sprints. Okay, so we want to build a massive base so we can have a huge peak. All right, so off-season weeks 16 through 21, then we're going to start to prepare for the upcoming season. Believe me, you do not have to murder yourself on an assault bike, on a sled, or on a hill, or on a field in the middle of June. Okay, when we think about the hockey season, you could use all that training where you're developing the pain, the hurt, and the burn that we're all familiar with and we love a couple of weeks out. And I recommend about 6. So again, beginning of July, if you come into my Liberty weight room, we're not on assault bikes. We're not pushing sleds to make ourselves vomit. We are solely working on building our conditioning, and we're solely focused on building our strength and our speed still. But now we're going to start to do a little bit more of our burn, our nasty, our hurting type of conditioning. We're going to make it hockey specific, and we're only going to do it twice a week. So if you're U8, how can you do that? A couple weeks before your season starts up, hill sprints. Go find a hill to run up, or incline a treadmill and run on that for a couple of seconds. Sled pushes. I love the sled. Sled's the best tool out there for all age levels. U16, you can start doing some drills on ice if that's available, right? Just showing up and having kind of a preseason practice will get you in shape. Hill sprints, sled pushes as well. And then for the junior college professionals, hopefully you guys are already on the ice a bunch. I think a lot of our conditioning for hockey should come on the ice just through normal drills and practices. We don't have time to get into today, but I think bag skating, lining up on the goal line and skating blue and back and red and back is awful. I think it's terrible. I think it makes you bad hockey players who don't win championships. Okay, that's my my humble view there. But with those junior college professional guys, we're going to hit the assault bike pretty hard because it creates a lot of burn. It's miserable. It's awful, but it doesn't beat up the body as much because there's no change of direction. As opposed to, I have an exercise called Move a Mountain, which is an off-ice sprint drill that really develops a lot of the burn and the acid that we're all familiar with, and then sled pushes as well. Pulling a sled for hockey players is gold. All right, so when we're thinking about the off season, weeks 16 to 21, as we're preparing for the upcoming season, how that would look is on Monday, we're still going to focus on getting faster and stronger, right? We work so hard for it, but let's keep doing that. Getting faster is the hardest thing to do. So always working on that. Tuesday, we're working on our aerobic. That's kind of just our ability to recover. So in the game of hockey, when you come off the bench and you're sitting there, when you come off the ice and sit on the bench and you're sitting there and breathing, heaving, huffing, that system is worked on Tuesday and Thursday to help you recover. So then on Wednesday, we're going to do some hockey-specific conditioning off ice. And on Friday, we'll do some hockey-specific conditioning off ice. Only twice a week of that burn nastiness because for a lot of us, we'll already be on the ice. All right, kind of trying to come to a draw here. Some highlights for U8 guys. Parents, if you're on here, please don't be crazy. Don't be crazy, parents. And what I mean by that is do not have your child playing hockey year-round. I know it sounds like a great idea, but trust me, you are going to peak them out early. You're going to burn them out early. You only get one set of tires throughout your whole life. Don't tear the tread off it before they're at the age of 10. Okay? It's okay to, stick handle and shoot year-round, as Gary said, but man, don't have them playing or be on the ice year-round, especially young guys, U8, U10, U12. They should be playing 2+ sports. I didn't want to write 3 on here and pressure you, but they should be playing a lot of different sports and then purchase a sled. If you go to roguefitness.com, you can purchase the Slicer sled, which I highly recommend. It's cheap, very affordable. It ships to the house, very quality there. So what would you do with that sled on Monday? Push it a heavy sled for 20 yards. On Wednesday, a light sled for 20 yards. On Friday, a medium sled for 30 seconds. Okay, so just a quick kind of how-to there. For U16 guys, at this point, you should be in the weight room and you need to master movements. You need to know how to squat. You need to know how to lunge. Have to do a quality push-up and chin-up. I see way too many people even come into the college level where they can bench press a certain amount of weight, but they can't do a push-up. When you play sports, there is no weights out there on the competitive field. When you play hockey, there is no bench press weights out there. So if you can't move your body efficiently and well, what are we doing here? Okay, it's not transferring out onto the ice, I guarantee it. So master these movements like a deadlift, an RDL, or a trap bar, and then sprint. Man, you guys got to be sprinting. That's the window, that U16 time. Get fast. For my junior college pros, on Monday, we are going to focus on our strength and power. Okay, so weightlifting exercises, heavy resisted sled is what I would be pushing there. On Wednesday, speed and power focus. All right, we're lifting weights, we're sprinting. Okay, body weight, lighter sprints. So we get higher speeds on Wednesday, and then on Friday, more strength and power work with a heavy resisted sled. Okay, if you're a nerd like me and you want to know where you could go for further information, here's who I stole all this stuff from. So Charlie Francis, he has some phenomenal resources out there. He has since passed, but his legacy lives on through books, DVDs, stuff like that. Chris Korfist, he is a sprint coach from the Chicago area. Lincoln, you better go see him one day. Cal Dietz, he is the strength conditioning coach for the University of Minnesota. And then Anthony Donskov owns a hockey training facility in Columbus, Ohio. Basically everything we kind of talked about today in part or another, I stole from these guys. So if you guys have any questions, we'll rock and roll with that now. We could obviously share some of this stuff, but parents, pro guys, U16 guys, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help and definitely give some more specifics and details that I just didn't feel would have been great for this presentation. We have such a wide array, but hopefully that helped you guys kind of understand some what's and whys. And then we'll open her up for questions here and get rocking and rolling, hopefully answer some things for you guys.
Thank you. Absolutely awesome, Chris. Friends, it's open for questions. What questions might some of you have? And I'll just encourage you all, if you have one, put it in the chat bar, and we will roll it from there. And so we'll start with that, Chris. If you can see this too. When you have 2 high intensity workouts a week, let's start with that one. Will you have 2 low intensity the next week?
Yeah, so if you're only working out twice a week, they could both be high intensity both days for sure. That's no problem, and you could roll that throughout your entire summer.
Yeah. So I think I have a question for you actually while people are formulating their questions. Let's say that there's a youth on here and they have summer hockey and maybe they don't have as long of an off season as like some of our young guys, 14s and 16s, 18s, they have some tournaments that they go play or they have tryouts that come in the middle of June. How would you encourage them to train and kind of maximize that building phase, so to speak? What would you have them focus on?
Yeah, so in terms of specific exercises, age kind of dependent there, but you guys have to get fast. It just is what it is. When you don't have long off-season times or periods, you cannot risk not sprinting in a week, right? Like every single week, you have to be doing some sort of resisted sprinting, either with a sled belt and the sled's behind you, or you're pushing a sled, or you're sprinting up a hill, or you're just sprinting on flat land. It's that important for your brain and for your body. And then from there, I would have as many high intensity days as you can. Okay, so high intensity would be heavy weights, your classic squat, bench, deadlift, heavy weights, and then a sprint focus. So a good day would be warm up, do some speed drills with some sprints, lift some weights after, and squeeze in as many of those as you can, and then just see how you feel on the ice. If it's affecting your practices or affecting your games, then just have your workouts, a little bit sooner in the week, or throw in a low intensity day before those, so that you're able to get quality ice times.
Great. Well said. All right. So your move a mountain drill.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. So it's awful. It's miserable, but you take 3 medicine balls and you put them on a line, and then you have another line that's 10 yards apart. So it's sprints back and forth that are 10 yards apart, 10 yards or 10 meters. So let's say you're doing them on a football field. You're on the goal line and you have all your med balls lined up there, and then there's the 10-yard line. For 30 seconds, you grab a ball, run down with it, go back, grab a ball, run down with it, go back. So it's moving med balls back and forth, and you just keep going as many laps as you can of moving these medicine balls for 30 straight seconds. And with that change of direction, with holding on to the med balls, it's going to develop the most awful feeling in your lungs, in your legs, and it's going to burn you up. Maybe if you're a little younger, you don't necessarily need the medicine balls, but I do it with my college guys because it helps to slow them down. So as they're stopping and starting on these 10-yard sprints, it's not as intense on their hips. If they're going all out, max speed, and stopping on a dime, I would worry a little bit about their safety. So the medicine ball honestly just kind of slows them down a bit. So you could do up to 6 sets of 30 seconds on, 2.5 minutes of rest. So again, if I start that in week 16, I'm only going to start with 2 sets of that, and I'm going to build every week with an additional set. And that's a way that I kind of prepare our players off ice for the upcoming demands of the season. Mostly I'm preparing them for the first week of practice, if I'm being honest. So move a mountain, 30 seconds on, 2.5 minutes off, 10-yard sprints back and forth, and up to 6 sets of that. And if you can, using medicine balls to move back and forth as well.
Come on. Boom. Sounds like a workout. I want to do that. I'm in.
Yeah,
Coach.
it's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
Sled pushes. What is heavy, medium, and light as pertains to the body weight? So for young kids, weight.
Great questions. So it's tough to prescribe that because it depends on the sled and depends on the surface that you're pushing it on, right? So if you're pushing it in a gravel parking lot, it's going to be a little tougher than if you're pushing it on beautifully new pavement. If you're pulling a sled in grass, that's going to be different than pavement or turf or something like that. So it's kind of hard to determine heavy, medium, and light as far as that goes. But to kind of give it a stab here, I would say the best thing that you could do is time it. And then from there, say, all right, in 5 seconds, I want you to go 10 yards, the heaviest weight that you can. That would be your heavy. And then you could say 70% of that would be medium. And then let's say 40% of that would be light. So, a little difficult to kind of answer there, but you could time somebody for 10 yards, maximal for 4 or 5 seconds. That's heavy. And then just kind of take weight off there as you kind of need to or want to. How does that sound, Gary? Is that practical?
Great. Come on, that's good. Okay, let's go to goalies. So goalies, they're going to have maybe some different speed or power drills, okay, versus a player because of different movements. What would you recommend for our goalies on the call here?
Great question. So like I said earlier, when you walk into my weight room, middle of June, beginning of July, I don't want anybody to know that I'm training hockey players. And I for sure don't want anyone to know that I'm training a goalie and that's a forward. Okay, so this is all my opinion, and this is all my experiences at the college level. Goalies beat their hips up nonstop, and forwards and do as far as I'm concerned. But for a long period of the off season, I don't want a whole lot of lateral work in there. I want to save that type of stuff for the, preseason type of conditioning as we're getting ready, more week 16 through 21 type of things. Because yes, as a goalie, they're dropping down, they're standing up, they're pushing laterally across the crease, and it's incredibly important. But I think that your speed and power that you develop linearly, meaning just straight forward and back in exercises in the weight room and in sprints, will help transfer and translate once we start to get specific. But again, if I give the analogy of you only have one set of tires, one set of hips your entire life, I don't want to be taking the tread off of those tires year round. I don't want to be beating your hips up year round. So I give goalies a long, specific time where they're not doing anything looking like a goalie. And then once the season approaches or kind of gets near, a lot of lateral sled pushes and pulls, and then a lot of lateral jumps as well. But for me, my guys, and if you're junior college professional, you're on the ice. If you're on the ice as a goalie, just keep working on that and let that be your specific training. Don't try to get too crazy in the weight room. That's all my opinion. You might want to ask my goalies what they think of it, but I really believe in let the hips rest, let the hips settle.
It's good. It's very good. And I like what you're saying, like in terms of like, even though you're not getting super, super specific right away, like you are developing athleticism. And that speed and that power, it translates. Absolutely translates.
If I could hop in there for goalies specifically, I've coached a number of, for our level, elite type of goalies, and they are always the fastest and most explosive on the team. They're always the fastest and most explosive on the team, whether it's a vertical jump, a broad jump, or straight forward. And I think there's something to be said there about developing those qualities versus just constant lateral stuff for a goalie.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, I got two final questions, Chris, and then we're going to wrap it up, friends. So what is your example of a bodybuilding low intensity workout that you said? So this is, go ahead and answer that, and then we'll have one final question.
Great question. So if you think of a classic circuit where you do one exercise and then the other and then the other and then the other, that's really it. So I've stolen from a bunch of different people, and there's a CrossFit coach who has trained for the last 10 years every single person who's won the CrossFit Games. So I wanted to know, like, hey, what are you doing? And he has a certain circuit style where in a minute he'll do a heavier type of exercise and then much, much lighter for the remainder of that minute. So for example, you're going to do as many push-ups as you can in a minute. And then when you're done, you're going to flip over onto your back and then just do air push-ups with your hands. And so this might be a little over everyone's heads, but that's going to work high threshold motor units, or in other words, like your big boys and your big guns there. And then just pressing on the air is going to work your low threshold motor units, or in other words, like your small little tiny muscle fibers. And so that's a way you could do it. But to make it simple, think of like you're going to do a push-up, a pull-up, a shoulder press, and a dumbbell row. You're going to do 8 to 12 repetitions of each, and you're just going to keep moving back and forth through that. And once you complete that circuit, you'll do something easy for your legs and something easy for your core. And you just keep repeating that slowly but surely for 25 minutes. It's going to be lots of repetitions, which increases muscle mass, and lots of repetitions, which will get your heart rate up and get you sweating as well.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. And if any of these guys end up having more questions, they can obviously follow you on Twitter. They can reach out to you by email, and you can probably help them as well. So that's a great question, guys. Last question of the night is this: do you have any tips for nutrition when trying to build muscle and cut fat?
Absolutely. So, again, with all the kind of different age levels that we had on here, I didn't want to get too deep into nutrition because for U8 guys, it's mostly the parents, right? And for even U16, type of players. And once you hit junior college pro, hopefully you've learned a little bit more about your body and have a decent idea. But when we're talking about nutrition, of losing weight, cutting fat, the first thing you have to focus on is only drink water. That's it. Only drink water. So everybody here should be able to grab their water bottle and shake it in front of the screen here, because you're only drinking water. When you drink anything like a juice, when you drink anything like a soda or anything like an energy drink, or I coach girls and drinking frappuccinos, all that is just sugar water. You don't need that unless you're playing hockey. Please drink your sports drinks. That's okay there, but start with only water. Oh, but water doesn't taste good. I like orange juice with my breakfast. I don't care, right? Like, be disciplined. You work so hard, reward yourself by drinking water. Then from there, we need to limit our sugar. Okay, so everything that isn't pieces of meat, fruit, vegetables, or good bread, potatoes, pastas, and rices, think twice before you're going to eat that, right? If it comes from boxes like crackers and stuff like that, potato chips, that's just the classic junk foods. We don't want that. There's a million different diets out there. There's vegan, vegetarian, there's carnivore, keto, there's paleo, there's Whole30, there's whatever else. They all have the same thing in common, and that's stay away from food that comes in boxes and bags. Okay, so we're going to really focus on our water intake. We're going to focus on limiting our extra sugars, and then try not to eat anything processed. So the simple diet would be meat, nuts, seeds, fruit, vegetable, potatoes, rice, and then some breads if you're a peanut butter jelly guy.
Okay, come on, man. You're nailing it. I love it. All right, friends. Hey, thank you so much, Chris, for being on tonight and sharing all that. I couldn't agree more on some of that nutrition stuff. That stuff radically impacted me as an athlete. And the more dialed I became on nutrition, it's like putting good fuel into your vehicle. And if you're going to work this hard to get strong, to get fast, to achieve your vision and your dream and your goals, like if you're going to work this hard to fight for it, why would you put junk in the fuel tank? Mm-hmm. Right? It's not worth it. And it's crazy. The more disciplined you become with that, your taste buds begin to change, and you actually begin to love eating healthy. So if you hate it at the start, your taste buds will adapt, and your body will begin to love it, to where you learn to love eating fruit bowls rather than ice cream bowls. You learn to love eating salads rather than eating fast food chain meals that you can pick up for $4. Like you learn to love it, and your body fuels on it. So if you're going to work this hard, treat your body right. It's my encouragement, and it helped me a lot in my career too. But to wrap us up, friends, I know we've gone a couple minutes over here. Thank you so much for being on. I totally believe that because of Jesus, we have the opportunity as Christian athletes to be extraordinary at what we do. We can worship God relentlessly, being the best athlete we can. We worship God in that way. But because the Spirit of God dwells in us as believers, like, we can put to death the deeds of the body, the sinful nature. And so this off season can be one of the best off seasons you've ever had. All right, if you attack this, if you laser focus, and you could cut steel. So our encouragement to you today is get laser focused, apply these principles from a physical standpoint, and go after this relentlessly, to get courageous and have the courage, like we were talking at one point, to be able to go after your dream. And friends, it's an honor to do it with you. So I'm going to pray us out, and we will be done today. Chris, again, thank you. Thank you so much for being on. And friends, let's attack this off season. I'll pray us out. Lord, I just say thank you. I say thank you for your word, that we get the privilege to compete for you. Lord, help every one of us, Father God, please help every one of us not compete for ourselves, but for Christ. And help us, Lord, as you've said, run in such a way that we might win. Help us not be casual, but let us attack this off season, and give us the grace, Lord, to be able to focus in and become lasers rather than flashlights. Help us, Father God, go after this off season with courage and with grace, and be the men and women you call us to be. In Jesus' name, amen.